Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today we're going to take a look ahead at the World Championships, our yearly big World Championship preview show. And with me here to take a look at 7 races is Issam.
7. Thank you for having me.
It could have been 6 races, but we're not just looking forward to the individual ones. We'll briefly cast our spell over the mixed relay as well. But first, the course. We go to Hulst, an iconic course, really quickly became, I think it's fair to say, a modern classic on the cyclocross course and the cyclocross circuit. It has its steep drops. It's really progressed since the first time that the Bricocross was held there back then. I think I went to the first edition there, or the second one, but it's progressed a lot since then. And this year there's some changes to the course. Most notably, there will be 5 pontoon crossings in the course. There are a large number of bridges, and that will make this course harder. There are now 2 steep run-ups instead of 1. The drop after the windmill is now an uphill, and the steep run-up, that is now a drop. At the end of the lap, the steep drop they took is now a uphill, and that's in the middle of the lap, and then there's a steep drop. The second half of the course is very power-heavy. You go in front of the VIP tent, that could become quite muddy. And then it's a long straightaway along the water, across 2 pontoons, a bridge with stairs, because apparently the course was not hard enough in itself, and then another bridge to cross over the numerous spectators just before the finish. And I will just check the latest weather forecast right now, because it's been changing every single day. It looks like the warmer air is winning, but that does mean that there is more chance of rain. It's currently saying rain on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, with quite heavy rain Sunday afternoon. Time will need to tell. It could still be a fast race, it could change. It's been changing a lot, like I said, but in the mud it will be a very difficult course. Those downhills and the early part of the course with the off-cameras will become more technical. If it's fast, it will still have its physical aspect, but it would be very different. However, regardless of the conditions, there can only be one favorite for the men's elite title. His potential 8th title, lone record holder he would be on the men's side. He would equal 8 world titles of Marianne Vos on the women's side. Mathieu van der Poel, invisible this season, or invincible I should say, not invisible. He's not lost a single race here. The closest that he came to losing was in Namur, his first race of the season. Since then he reassured his dominance, showing his form here in Hogerheide with a display. We should be honest, barring numerous mechanicals or issues, he should become world champion.
100%. I think that is very clear, and there are no surprises there. I think that it is indeed, there could be things that could happen. It is a course in which you should also be, stay focused in a sense. I don't have any doubt that he would drop his guard in a sense on this course, even if he would be leading. But it is a course where you have to be focused from start to finish in a sense. So that is going to be a task for him, and if he does what he normally does, he will win it, and with quite a margin as well, because we have seen that from the season so far, and that would be an historic win. And if you are hoping for the best to win, Van der Poel is then the best in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he really is the man to beat, and it will be very hard. So I don't really think there's any probable scenario in which he will really lose the title by his own wrongdoing. For second place, I think there's a number of contenders. First of all, the 2 most often, or the riders who finish behind Van der Poel the most often, Del Grosso and Nys. But also Niels van der Putten. The course here suits him. He won the World Cup here last year. He is a rider that has shown form with 2 third place finishes in the last World Cups. For me, I would place Del Grosso and Nys slightly above him. I think they are physically a little bit stronger, and they are technically good enough that the course nature won't really move the needle between them or Van der Putten. So then if I zoom in a bit on Nys and Del Grosso, I think for Nys, his real thing that needs to happen is he needs to deliver a flawless ride. He needs to race like at the Belgian Championships. Okay, he crashed once there, but overall his race was mature. He stayed within himself. He didn't blow himself up, and above all, there were no real silly mistakes. That crash on a course like Beringen in those thawing conditions, that can happen. Almost everyone crashed at least once that race. So this weekend, Nijs needs to stay on his bike, and then he has a real opportunity of finishing second. He needs to not get caught up in trying to become world champion behind Van der Poel. I think he needs to accept that unless he feels incredible on the day and senses a bit of weakness, then he just needs to accept, okay, maybe second is the best I can do this year. That is one place better than where I was last year, and I will take that win and really race for that. You see that Del Grosso does that more, and it yields him more returns, I feel. So that's kind of how I look at that battle for second place. Between Nijs and Del Grosso, there, for me, is really not much to separate them.
No, although I think that if the course is going to be a bit muddier in a sense and tougher, I think that Nijs might have a little edge on Del Grosso, in my opinion. Because if you also look at the races that we have had, Nijs most of the time had something to battle with Del Grosso, and it was more because of his own wrongdoing that he made the race harder. It doesn't mean that I don't see that Del Grosso is definitely a very honest contender for Nijs, but I think that if the course is a bit faster, I feel that Del Grosso will have a bigger chance of beating Nijs than when it's going to be a bit tougher and a bit slower in a sense. And that is a feeling that I kind of have. It's also, you could arguably say that we have seen it this season unfold a little bit, and I would say that Nijs is for me the bigger favorite for second place, but he has to clean it up. He has to make sure that he doesn't make that many mistakes. Del Grosso is a smart rider, is also a dangerous rider, and if he is there with you, it's gonna be hard to beat him in a sense. So he will definitely try everything to make sure that he wins. It's definitely going to be a battle I look forward to. I'm interested to see if, the likes of a Van der Putte is going to be able to mix it in. Because, the race scenario could very well be that a Van der Poel starts very fast, which we have seen basically every World Championships that he starts in this type of role. He always makes sure that he is, having a good start and he is up there and no one is getting in his way in a sense, and he makes sure that no one is in his way because he is so fast in his start and has a very fast first and second lap, and he just makes sure that the opponents have no, not even the slightest of thoughts of thinking about, trying to challenge him in a sense. They either follow or they drop and they have to let him go. And if that is going to be the case, how will the racing be behind them? Is a Nijs or a Del Grosso capable of really breaking it up early on in the race, and then it's basically going to be a 1v1? Or is it going to be something that just gradually becomes a somewhat bigger group of maybe 5-6 riders that just slowly but surely thins out into maybe 2-3, with the likes of maybe a Van der Putte joining that battle for the podium? And then it could be that mistakes from the likes of a Nijs could influence the race and could influence his result. But I have the feeling, to be honest, that Nijs, if he is showing up, if, no mechanicals and all that, and he doesn't make mistakes, he doesn't crash or whatever, I think that for me he has the slight edge over Del Grosso for second place. But that's more a feeling, I guess, because if you look at the last two races, Del Grosso had the edge, but that is just last weekend, and you kind of should, you need to forget that in a sense going into this weekend.
Look, I get your point about Nijs and that harder races seem to suit him better, but I would like to note that those harder races this season have been climbing races, mainly Gavere and Namur. And yes, there's elevation in Hulst, but most of it is running. It's almost all running, even in the dry. So that changes the narrative, and it's never going to be as heavy as, say, that race in Namur or in Gavere. So I do think, yes, maybe the mud will help him a bit better because he's probably a bit more powerful, but still, if it's muddy, then you're also holding your breath every time he's going to take a dive somewhere or come onto one of these tricky uphills where you need to dismount halfway through. Because this season still, he has improved a lot from where he was a few years ago, but it's still not perfect in those conditions. And as long as he hasn't fixed that out, we will be watching all the races thinking, oh, Thibaut Nice, it's just so high risk rider. Like, that's how you'll be looking at that, and that could really cost him. If it's dry, on the other hand, you could get more tactical racing. The second half of the course then would be really, really fast and really a good opportunity to sit in. And yeah, that's then also a moment where riders like Van der Putten could come back. You said you're interested to see him in the mix. Is he the main rider you're looking at, or do you believe in a Michael van Toerenhout recovered from illness? Do you believe in Joran Viseur after the crash? Do you look at Felipe Orts or Cameron Mason after what they've shown? Orts, especially with the results, Mason with a good first half of first 2-3 laps until the puncture in Maasmechelen, and then a solid recovery. How are you looking at that? Is it really these riders for the podium, or are there more realistic contenders?
In a sense, as I said, you should kind of forget about what we have seen in Maasmechelen Hogerheide. But it is hard, to do that in a sense. I think that Orts for sure will find a course where he can, play around in a sense, and if he has good legs and the form is still somewhat there, that form that we saw in Benidorm, that we saw last race as well, if he has that, it is possible to be visible in a sense for that podium fight. But then I don't think that he has enough to actually get that podium. I think that the top 5 is definitely possible. With Van Toerenhout, this is a huge question mark. I mean, I can bring up the cliches of saying that, the illness and he's going to be prepared. And he is a championship rider in a sense. He will definitely try to make the most out of it. And Van Toerenhout needs to be as close as possible to the level that is needed in a sense to get that podium. And if the race maybe helps him out a little bit, he could potentially, with, I wouldn't say tactics, but just because of the strategy of the race in a sense and how the race was developing, he could be well in the mix in a sense. He's someone that could get through this course quite well. Mason, also definitely someone that you have to keep in mind for top 5. I don't see him as a real contender for a podium. I think that he's going to be outnumbered in a sense for that podium spot. I think that there's just too many that are just a little bit better than him. But on a good day, you don't know. He is definitely someone that likes to take risks, that races aggressively in a way, in a good sense, of course. He likes to make a move early on. And those are things that on the championships day could very well make the difference. So I think that you also have to, count him in. I think a Toon Aerts, you never know how that will play out. That could very well be also a rider that you could see well in the top 5 and also be a rider that wants to have a say in that on that podium spot and will try everything to fight for that. So we know who the winner is going to be. But I have a feeling that battle for the second and mainly the third spot, because I feel that maybe it could very well be that second spot is also going to be decided maybe somewhere after halfway, but maybe that third spot could be a very, very interesting battle, and then also for who is going to be able to get himself in the top 5 could also very well be entertaining to follow. So I think we're in for a good race. It's, you should only kind of consider how good the race will be when you almost are certain of the winner of the race.
So I agree on that last point. The battle for the top 5 could be quite interesting, but look, I don't really see it that realistic, that Nice and Del Grosso, that either of them really rides away halfway through. I think there's a good possibility that they are together for quite long, and yeah, there could be one rider on a great day that's with them. I agree with your points about Orts and Mason. Mason at top 5 would also be a tremendous result after how that Christmas period went. One rider I would like to add to that list is Mees Hendricks. He's had a really good second half of the season. His World Cup performances have been great. And he is also a name that could potentially finish in the top 5. And that adds to the storyline. Netherlands, Belgium, which country is going to have the upper hand this year? The nations ranking is not really valued that much, but either of them, it's always a bit of an indication for the journalists to look at the results that are handed to them by the UCI in the press room. Okay, so it looks like then this year the Netherlands is maybe on top for the first time against Belgium in forever. So that's an interesting thing. That's a dynamic that's building over here. Is Belgium really in trouble? Is it going to be a Dutch party in the Netherlands? I think so. I think Van der Poel and Del Grosso will be on the podium, and that Hendricks could also really get a good result. And then one rider not mentioned here, Joris Nieuwenhuis. Muddy conditions could suit him more, but his knee, just since that sabbatical of one race, one day, when he needed to figure out that his knee was messed up, and then decided to just race through with that knee injury until the end of the season, it's a bit on and off, and he has good phases in the race, but he's not really able to pull that through, and I struggle to see that happening. And while we're talking about him, there's a rumor shared on the Plaatse News this morning that he is on his way to a new deal at Heizomat Cube because he does not want to sign with Pauwelsausen. No news on what that would mean for Felipe Orts, and also no word on a potential closure of the Ridley cyclocross team, but that is kind of assumed in the Belgian media after those merger rumors with Mette Penningen earlier this winter. So then, what else will I be looking at? Gerben Kuipers, can he get another good result? And Filippo Fontana, can he get a top 10? What can Michael Boros do after illness? Time for some predictions. Issam, podium, and how many non-Dutch/Belgian riders in the top 10 for this race?
I would say Van der Poel, Nijs, Del Grosso. Kind of came... I mean, I already kind of spoiled that in a sense by the way I was going over my preview for the race, but yeah, I think that will be my podium, and that one is a tough one. I think 2. I think that there are going to be 2 non-Dutch Belgian riders in the top 10, in my opinion.
I will go with 3 then, Orts, Mason, and Fontana. And my podium will be Van der Poel, Del Grosso, Nijs. Moving on then, the women's race. There it's not a guarantee who is going to take the win, and there's also not one clear favorite. I think we have a trident of favorites and a bunch of riders closely behind. To start with those favorites, we have Lucinda Brandt, dominant rider this season, had a tremendous streak of podium finishes that came to an end in Maasmechelen. She took so many wins. But then, after Maasmechelen, which wasn't a great day, there were stories about a ankle/calf injury. She skipped Hogerheide. Then you have Alvarado, started the season with a knee injury, which kept her out of competition very long. Returned, became sick, bounced back, and now in recent weeks has been really strong. She, for instance, won in Zonhoven, became national champion. And then there is Puk Pieterse. She took a longer break after a disappointing end to her road and mountain bike season. She made her way into cross, improved steadily, and this year is at her best the weekend before the World Championships, taking 2 wins in Maasmechelen and Hogerheide. How should we look ahead at the race here in Hulst?
We should look at it that we have that we are in a situation right now that we finally have a belief that Brandt is beatable. I think that we were kind of hoping for this scenario. Not that I don't want to see Brandt win or anything, but it's just for the excitement of the race in a sense. We were kind of hoping for either Pieterse or Alvarado to step up and be able to challenge Brandt. And I think that after last weekend, we can conclude that we have a Pieterse that potentially is able to challenge Brandt. For sure, we don't know how good Brandt will be come race day, because that is definitely going to be the biggest question in a sense. You know, how good is Brandt going to be? Because she could very well blow everyone away and that is it. But it's the questions, they must also, I think at least in a way, they must creep in a sense to Brandt as well. And I don't believe that you can be that calm, that sure of yourself going into this with the performance of Maasmechelen, and you're just like, I don't really know if everything is going to click, if everything is going to be okay. I hope that she has that, but I have the feeling that could very well be something that she's doubting at this point a little bit, because Pieterse is showing great form. Hopefully that form will continue for her come race day, and it's not going to be 1 week too early in a peak, because we have seen that in the past where a rider looked phenomenal the week before the World Championships, but that the day itself was not really able to do the job in a sense. So what you said, I think there is not a clear favorite, which is great, and Brandt is beatable in a sense in the sort of the storyline that is now kind of being pushed in a sense, and also rightfully being pushed, because we have seen the races, we have seen the performances of Peterson. So that's gonna be interesting. And to be honest, on the women's side, we don't really have the amount of races where we can really go off from and say it is clear that rider A is better than rider B, and this it's a bit of a guessing, despite the fact that we have seen them race so many times this season. But it was always, okay, Brandt is better, Peters is building, and now it's the other way around. Now it's, okay, Brandt, we know that she will be there come Saturday, and that will be her race. That is the goal. If she's not gonna be able to make it happen there, then it's a failed season in a sense, in her eyes and eyes of others. And Peterson is now in the women in form. So I think that is gonna be an exciting battle. But it could very well be a race in which we will be very disappointed because of the things that we thought that would happen and how eventually the race will develop, in a sense.
After Maasmechelen, in the podcast, I said Brandt should not worry based on this performance, and I still stand by that part. Based on her season and how she's been mentally, I don't think that will create doubt, but that injury is something I'm more worried about. The question becomes, how real is that injury? How serious is it? We don't know that. But that's the thing that's easily either after the Worlds will be saying, it was just a small thing, small hiccup, didn't really hamper her, or will resonate back, Brandt really not good today, 7th place finish, that injury that she got, where did she get it? They'll tell us the full story then, and maybe now they make it seem minor, but it's actually a lot bigger. We've had both of those scenarios unfold at World Championships with injuries.
Absolutely.
Take, for instance, Van Aert before the BLS World Championships. That was quite serious, that injury, but they downplayed it because they wanted to keep belief and wanted to keep him as the leader of the team. The Dutch, there's always a talk about the tactics, and after the gravel World Championships, there's that potential is here as well. I don't fully see that. Yes, there are riders who can come from behind, but if you just look at kind of the way that the more difficult and more technical races have unfolded, there's always kind of a group stretching out, and Brandt should start with confidence, but I don't think that she's going to win. With Peterson, my concern on this course is the same as with Nys. Can she put it together technically? For Peterson this season, the problem has been crashing. One crash has cost her a lot of times, most noticeably Dutch National Championships. But if she stays on her bike like last weekend, then she is a real dangerous factor to keep in. Alvarado, I think, finds a good course for her here, a good mix between technical and power. I think she could do really well here. In fact, I think that she will become world champion, her first title since 2020. That's what I'm going to go with, and I will do my predictions first in a bit. Because I think the first section of the course, those flow of the off-gambers, the steep ride-ups, the short drops, Alvarado with her awareness is so good. She knows when to take the lead. She's so smooth. She hardly makes any mistakes. She's always flatlining. It's very rare that you see her make a mistake or a crash. There have been a few this season, and then we always thought, it's so rare to see her on the ground. She has the form, so I think that this year it could be for her, and then in the end she might look back on that knee injury like one with a bit of a silver lining. In the past, back injuries, illnesses, the fatigue of the season has caught up to her, and this year that is not the case. So I think that it might all just come together for her, although I do think there will be a battle, but in that, I am always critical of the Belgian bloc. There's no talk about a Belgian bloc this year. There's talk about a Dutch bloc. I don't believe in that either, for that matter. If Amandine Fouquenet, that's the first rider I look at, or Sarah Casasola has a tremendous day, I think they will struggle on the downhills on the first technical part. But say they are so strong they can keep coming back, it will be every woman for themselves.
Let me then ask you this: could we maybe expect a Phoenix block, in a sense, where maybe Alvarado attacks, Peterson looks at Brandt and is like, it's not up to me, it's up to you? Is that a possibility, you think? Because we haven't, I have to think now, but I don't think we have seen that this season that often. I don't even think we have seen it once. But could that be a scenario you think that is possible, or do you think championship is a championship. Everyone wants to win, and they all have the legs in a sense to maybe win it, and then they won't think about that.
But more specific, a Phoenix or a Roodhoofd consortium, because at the European Championships, Casasola and Brandt were beefing a bit because Brandt said, well, Van der Heijden is my national teammate, and Casasola said, yeah, well, she's my trade teammate. So do you think that if we are looking at it that way, we should consider the overarching Roodhoofd structure or just the Phoenix? Because I could see a Phoenix plan where they say, like, hey, in the last lap, if you're with Lucinda Brandt, then Alvarado should attack and Brandt should close it, and then Peterson should sprint, for instance. Although, I mean, if Alvarado and Peterson need to sprint for it, I'm not sure between those two who would win. So that's one part, but I struggle to see where it really becomes a huge cluster and a mess of national team versus commercial team and commercial team led by Roodhoofd. I don't see that happening per se.
I don't think they would do that. And I think that Casasola will, for sure, in that scenario, it was definitely something that you can consider in a sense. Also, just by how how Brandt was at that point of the season, that you would think about it in a sense. But I don't think that Casasola would take it that far. In all honesty, I don't know if she will have that role overall. It could very well be, because the form is there. It was unfortunate that we were not able to see that for the entirety of the race there in Hogerheide because of that crush, but it is maybe possible, but I don't see it happen, and overall I don't think that will be something that we will see during the race, that there would really be this, that they would go that far in a sense that, like, oh, she's riding for the Roodhoofd alliance in a sense, those teams, the Krelan, Phoenix. I don't think that would be playing a role. I do think though that we might see, if they have the opportunity to do so, they will try to annoy Brandt in a sense. If they are out there with three and all three of them are having a good day, they could maybe play that game for a little bit. I don't know why they wouldn't do that in a sense.
The reason why they wouldn't do it is because they all want to win themselves, and for Peterson it's an opportunity for her first. For Alvarado it's an opportunity for her first in 6 years. I mean, 2020 to now, that's a long reach. I would never say we really lost faith, or at least I never lost faith in the capabilities of Alvarado, but since that first world title it was really a dip, and maybe that's biasing me, and that's part of the reason why I'm now predicting her for the win as well, because I would love to see it and it would be a great story. I mean, for Brandt, it's also been 5 years. She won in 2021, Ostende, and that she has one world title to her palmarès with just how impressive that resume is also a little bit criminal, to put it mildly. So for all of them, there would be great values to it. For Peterson as well, rebounding after 2 seasons in cross with illness, and then the sad end to her road mountain bike campaign last year. But at the end of the day, it's not just between these three. There are certainly other riders, like if that injury of Brandt is bad, if any of them has a bad day, if any of them makes too many technical mistakes. Like I said, Foucounet, definitely a rider that could finish on the podium here. Sarah Casasola, she was strong last weekend. That crash in Hogerheide cost her, but I liked what I saw from her. If that's just a little bit better, then yeah, who knows? I mean, one thing I did notice that the riders who skipped Benidorm did seem to be slightly fresher last weekend. Mm-hmm. Does that translate to now? We will need to wait and see for that. But those are the two main riders I look at. A third rider I have penciled in on my little note block here is Kristina Zemanova. I don't think she finds an ideal course for her. It's a little bit too technical. The extreme running is not great for her either. But she's in good form. She's shown good stuff in Benidorm and, of course, Hogerheide. She is a contender. And then other outsiders, Zoe Backstedt. Not great, but course does suit her okay-ish if she can survive the first part. And Shirin van Anrooy, home rider in a way. It's always the definition, what is home? Is it home for all the Dutch? Kind of, but she's from the province, and she, I struggle to see her finish on the podium on this course. Had there been more sand, maybe like next year in Ostende, she'll have a good opportunity. I believe she will be even stronger than this year after returning to cross. However, she's also shown solid form and should be mentioned in a quite large list of potential outsiders for the podium, and noticeably a lot of these outsiders are not from the Netherlands this year.
Quite noticeable, but it is almost nature of how this season went, because some of the protagonists that we saw in the beginning of the season, the European champion Van der Heijden, is someone that, you know, we now look at in a sense and say, well,
tired,
fatigue, yeah.
Annick van Alphen,
same thing, and so that is obviously, you know, it's noticeable that some of the riders that we were waiting for in that period of the season arrived. They have maybe that freshness in a sense. They have a different build-up, and then they arrived at the World Championships, and they have maybe that edge over the likes of a Van der Heijden or Van Alphen. And is that an issue for the likes of a Van Alphen? I don't really think so. For sure, you want to try and do your best at the World Championships and be up there. I don't see that as a realistic scenario, that we will see some surprises here, because it's just, I have to say that, okay, Brandt, Alvarado, and also Pietersen, you know, those are the names in the sense that we will expect at the front. Could be that with the injury of Brandt or maybe the back of Alvarado or Pietersen, that maybe something happens, mechanical crash, whatever. The race is the race and it has to be ridden, and things can happen. So that are scenarios that could potentially take one or two out, and then you have they have 2 places left there for the podium, and things could happen. But I think that behind that, it's relatively open, because we are seeing maybe a Buckstead that is getting better and better. I can recall that I said last week somewhere that I don't really expect her for it to get all together, but who knows? You know, it is a trajectory that is heading somewhat towards that very good race that is coming up. So it's within the possibilities. You know, Zemanova is having, you know, a very, very, very strong season, and potentially, as you said, course not really there. If it's going to be raining and it's going to be tougher, is that going to help her? I don't really know. Van Anrooy probably not indeed. And with a Van Anrooy, it's definitely also question marks. Will be very motivated, will definitely try everything to be up there, will show herself, but will she be able to hold on to that? That is going to be a big task, and a task that I think is going to be very, very difficult for her to be able to fulfill. But I think that, like, for someone like Van Anrooy, she should already be happy that she is, you know, where she is at this point, because I didn't think that this was possible so fast, the way she has done it. I think that you have to give her a lot of props for the fact that how she was able to get through this season and the results that she has booked. So regardless of how this World Championships will end for her, I think that she can definitely look back at a successful cyclocross campaign, in my opinion. You know, when you are there, you will always try and do your best. And as you said, it's her home province, so she will definitely try to make the best out of it. And she is a rider that, if it's gonna be maybe, you know, if the running will be more critical uphill and all that, that is definitely some of those places where you can gain just that little bit more, because you have to. There are some of those, like, almost Swiss hills where you have to run up, the Spa-Francorchamps hills in a sense, and that those are also efforts that some riders do better than others, and over the course of several laps, you will see some riders really struggle with those hills. So that it's gonna be a tough course, and it's the condition will have to be tested in a sense, and you have to be ready for a very, very tough race, and it's gonna be a great World Championships for sure. So I think this is definitely one of those exciting categories, in my opinion.
The start list here is just so incredibly packed on the women's side. Like, it's Brandt, Van Alphen, Van der Heijden, Pietersen, Alvarado, Bakker, Van Anrooy, Betsema. Like, there's no bad riders in the Dutch squad. Like, any of them could finish in the top 10. Like, the competition is heavy for those places back in the back end of the top 10. The Belgians. Oh, I missed Vorst still for the Dutch. Then the Belgians, they have Ribeirol, also a strong rider. She could finish in the top 10. In fact, she should claim her first top 10 here. Brouwers, Rochette, McGill, Foucounet, 2 times Clauzel, Gunsalis. Like, there's just so many strong riders here on the left row of of the list. I mean, Perrine Clausel, and now also a rider who started, Helene Clausel. I don't expect too much from them, but there's just so many riders of a high level here, and that's really fantastic. I mean, if we come to the long shots for maybe a rider you look at is Blanca Vash. What can she do? She was quite okay in Maasmechelen. She started well in Hoogheid, then she hit a pole with her face and just rolled into the end. Schreiber, she won here last year, but due to 4 illnesses and an immune system that went flat after that, this hasn't been a good season for her. Hard to see her really turn that one around based on recent performances, but who knows? Yolanda Neff, can't really see it on this course, but she is powerful. How does she come back from those Swiss championships? Well, we will need to see, but Stardust could have been even stronger if the Italians wouldn't have only selected one rider. I mean, that Garibaldi isn't here after 2 World Cup top 10s, 6th in Diegem, 12th in Benidorm. Like, she's really good. Lucia Bramati, another rider that I think deserved to be here, but as such is life, and the Italians made their decisions. They want to take only medal-capable athletes. I think they're not yet at that level with their program, but here we are. There's a lot of riders that have the potential here, and there will be interesting fights for positions. Let's make some predictions then, Issam. For me, the prediction is Alvarado, Pietersen, Brandt. I think just their form, their rise into it is more favorable for them. I'm assuming that the injury hopefully won't hurt Brandt too much, but it will definitely have an impact. And then the special ask question here is how many Dutch riders will finish in the top 10, and I will go with 4.
I made some very difficult faces because this I had thought about it, but I want to change it in a sense. I think I will go with Pietersen as world champion. Brandt will finish in 2nd, and yeah.
Give me something, Issam.
Yeah, I know. I want to say Alvarado, but I think it's a question mark for me in a sense. But I'll go with Alvarado then, and be boring and say Alvarado in 3rd. And then in terms of how many there will be in the top 10, I think 5.
Whoa, okay. Okay then, Dutch domination continues, I guess, but let's move to the women's under 23 category.
I don't want my nationality revoked.
Yeah, it's dangerous game you're playing. Game. So we have the women's under 23. I bet you will be backing Benveld there for the world title then if you're that keen to stay in the Netherlands, but we have, I think, an interesting battle upon our hands there, which has been different than the last 3 editions. Those really stood out as walkovers, 2 times Backset, 1 time Van Androoy. Now Backset has opted to race in the elite category. Mm-hmm. So it leaves, in my opinion, Céline, the French elite national champion, as the favorite. Yep. She has had a couple of tremendous performances this year. Yes, consistency has been a bit lacking. Yes, in elite races she has set out too quickly and exploded a bit. But I don't think we'll see that. She is a clutcher. She is the road world under 23 champion as a first year. Last year she clapped Schreiber in Pontevedra for the European Championships. So for me, she is the favorite. It won't be a walkover. I think this is a wide open category. There's been a lot of surprises. I think that we have, for instance, with Benveld, a real rival. Her start to the season was really, really good, really made progression, but it's kind of dipped afterwards. It's not bad, but it's also not what we've seen from Benveld before. We have Fleur Morse, who's had a couple of good performances. I think she can contend, but the technical aspect of this course, I think, will be difficult for her. Yes, there's 2-3 days of coaching possibilities for Sven Nys. I'm sure they will go over those downhills time after time after time again. That's still a risk, not just crash risk, but also just losing quite some time. Those are kind of the 3 main favorites, but there's a lot of riders that can be mentioned in contention for the podium. The under-23 podium has switched so much. Lydia Cusack, Vida Lopez de San Roman, Amandine Muller. There's so many contenders.
If we talk about the podium spots, arguably the race of the underdogs, in my opinion, because Géry is someone that I think last year as well was not really her best weekend, the weekend before the World Championships. So you have to wait and see how that will all play out in a sense. And I have no doubt that she will try to be at her best come race day. So I think that you can definitely say that she has, the results and in a way the conviction of being the favorite. And behind, it is open. It is, in my opinion, quite open, and I think that a Muller definitely is someone that I look at and think that is a candidate for the podium spot. I think with Cusack and also Lopez and San Roman, there are possibilities. I look more into than a top 5, top 10, which I think in both cases would be a very good performance if they would be able to get that. It's going to be interesting because I think it's so open, as I said, and with Morse, you kind of hope, in a sense, that this would be a race where everything kind of comes together and she's able to really use the form that she's in, because it seems to be that she's in good form. But you have to negotiate the course as well, and that's cyclocross in a sense. You should not be making that many mistakes. You should be dependent on your technique. Your technique needs to be, in a sense, almost... It's an incredible sport because we are asking from the athletes to be almost flawless lap after lap, and they have to negotiate a course which is quite technical in a sense as well, and prone to mistakes. It's easily done. So I think that will, she has to make sure that she is on her A game come race day, and then something is definitely possible, and then she could even, with the form that she has, she could potentially even fight for a podium as well. And with Bentveld, it's hard to know where the form went, in a sense. Is it really that just very good in the beginning of the season and then it just slowly but surely disappeared? Or I don't know if that can really be the case. It could very well be that she's just thinking about this World Championship and will be there on race day and try to get that podium and even fight for victory. Because if you look at her potential, it is possible. But she has to then, be really good and be the Bentveld in a sense that we have seen earlier this season. Where is that Bentveld in a sense? The Bentveld that gave Mette Penning a confidence to make the comments that he made. That's the Bentveld that we want to see. And if that is possible, I think that she is a contender for the podium for sure.
She should even be a contender for the Elite World title if we need to believe those comments from Mette Penning. But I think it's, for me, a bit hard to see that Bentveld turns it around. She's been incredibly consistent, and therefore I do think she can finish on the podium, and she normally should, but it's just so stacked. I mean, I just went from the hip and took a few shots and made a few predictions, but there's more riders, like Bloemenkalis has had a good season. She's been in the top 5. Katrina Haladikova has been in the top 5 in Maasmechelen, for instance. Alyssa Sarkisov has been racing quite good. Her performance in Benidorm stood out. Like I said, Cusack, Lopez San Roman was good in Gavere, but perhaps this course doesn't suit her as good. Depends on the conditions, like mud versus dry, other riders. There are, however, like those riders I mentioned, you said maybe for more towards like an ambitious top 5. I would perhaps agree with that, but they are, like, it's so close that they are within the range of, hey, if I have a really good day and really nail my race, a surprise medal, which the championship normally delivers one from, is on the charts. But the competition is so stiff. Like I said, for me, Géry is the favorite. Mature, clutcher, French way. The form was really good in Benidorm, tired in Hogerheide, whatever. I don't really mind that much. However, 3 riders that I didn't just mention, but I think are bigger favorites.
I'm waiting.
So if you have Géry and Bentveld and Morse, I would come in with Raphaël Carrier.
Yes.
She was super strong in the Christmas period. That performance from Gulligem still stands out, but it's gone off the radar. Didn't have her national championships here, didn't race Benidorm, returned home, was doing quite well in Hogerheide until she crashed on the barriers.
Yep.
Really dangerous contender here for the podium. Slovakian elite champion Viktoria Gladanova, really dangerous rider as well. We know the potential is there. She was good in Hogerheide. Unlike in the World Cup, she doesn't need to come from the 8th row. She'll have a much better starting call up here. If she can get that first lap okay, which is sometimes a little bit of an issue, a real contender here as well. And then a bit of a... I don't think dark horse is the appropriate word, but Lauren Molengraaf, a talent, former talent, eternal talent. Put whatever stamp you want on it. Super talented from the junior categories. Had a lot of issues, but in recent weeks has slowly but surely crawled her way back to the front. Was on the podium of the under-23 race in Maasmechelen. So she is doing quite well. But again, like I said, this top 3, the top 5, the top 10 of these under-23s have changed. The dynamics here at the World Championships will be different. But for me, like if I put together 5 favorites, it's Géry, Moors Bentveld, Gladenova and Carrier in no particular order. Like if any of those 5 riders becomes world champion, I would not be too surprised.
I agree, because it is also with the course, it's just going to help it in a sense even more to because there are some riders that we are thinking of. They might get a course that doesn't suit them that well, but maybe with the good form and the competition that they have, they could still get a good result out of it, and that is making it obviously difficult to judge how it will play out. So I think that this, as I somewhat said, I think this is really the category of the underdogs in a sense. This is where the surprises could definitely be. I still see Géry as the favorite, just because of how she is able to perform at championships.
Yeah.
She knows how to be at her best there. So I think that is obviously something that she will also carry on in this race. The nerves will definitely not be as high as from other riders, in the sense that are in a position that they kind of know. They also look at this entry list. They also look at the riders that are going to be racing, and they are like, I actually have a chance. And when you are thinking about that, you might think that through a little bit too much, and then you also have to be mentally just really prepared for the consequences of that thought, and knowing that you're potentially actually, that there is a real possibility of getting on the podium. I think that Molengraaf is also somewhat of a surprise, but as you said, is getting better and better. Is Hulst going to be the course where she will have that result? I don't know.
Maybe.
Difficult question. I think that is going to be maybe a bit too big of a task. But yeah, I say it again. It's gonna be a very interesting and surprising race in a sense. But as you said, those 5 names I can definitely be behind as well, and say that from those names, if one of them becomes a world champion, it's going to be maybe shocking for that moment, but it is not going to be a huge surprise.
And also, like, how young are most of these riders? Like,
Young.
Géry, Gladenova, second year.
Yep.
Carrier, first year. Also first year we mentioned Cusack and Sarkisov. Molengraaf is the only rider with like a bit more experience. Sarkisov, first year. Lopez San Roman, second year. Like, there's just so many of these young riders. And in this, I mean, Amandine Muller, I'm not mentioning her because I think her form has dropped a little bit too much recently, but also a very dangerous rider, and she's a second year as well. Like, boy, it's so stacked. So stacked, and many of them have shown that they can ride the top 10 or top 15 in the elites already in the World Cup, so it's very exciting. For the predictions here,
oh God,
it's a tough one, but I'm going with Géry as world champion.
Yeah.
Gladenova P2 and Carrier P3. It's very hard to leave Bentveld off the podium. I mean, she's a fourth year and you would kind of expect it, but I don't really have any grounds to leave her off. I'm not going to try and defend this choice, but this is a gut feeling, and I just think that based on what I saw the last few weeks, some riders on the up and Bentveld apparently a little bit on the down, this is what I came to. But if Bentveld does become world champion, I'll be telling you here, yeah, a good turnaround, fourth year experience and whatnot. I'll have an explanation ready.
Yeah,
but it's going to be a tense one.
And I was struggling already with the last prediction. Now I'm even more struggling, I guess. But I just should, yeah. I guess I go with as I was saying that Géry, but I will go with Bentveld then. I think that she will definitely. She's a contender in my opinion for a podium, so I will say that she will become world champion. Just because you said Géry in a sense, I think that Géry is also in my eyes more the favorite. But anyways, then I would say Géry in second. I don't know if Morse has it. I want to say Morse in a sense for third, but I go with Morse. I go Morse third. This is such a Dutch Belgium podium prediction. Anyways, that is truly my conviction in a way. But as I was saying before, it is an open race, so I could very well be wrong, and I'm very well aware of that as well.
Let's go to the under-23 men's race then. There we will get a clash between David Haverdings, the killer, the last lap man, and Albin Sparvel, l'enfant terrible in a way, not because of his behavior, but more because of his riding style, always on the attack. He has some of that Thomas Voeckler DNA in him, although they patched him and didn't give him those silly, goofy faces of Voeckler. But this is, for me, the main question here coming in, like, Haverdings. Will his racing style pay off like it has done all season? Can he permit himself to kind of sit back a bit and kind of benefit from the large pack and the large number of under-23s that have a high level? Or will it backfire, and does he miss the move like in Hogerheide and then need to spend too much energy to come back? Sparvel, will he be able to listen to his coaches who keep telling him to take things lentement, or will he blow himself up again? Tactically, things were better in Hogerheide. If he races like that, he has a 50-50 shot at the world title against David Haverdings, I think. Those are the two main contenders I'm looking at based on the season. Stefano Viezzi is a dangerous guy, but Diago Stannacchio is not starting the other Italian. He has an infection and his season is over, like we said in the Benidorm episode. But Viezzi is strong. The only way I can see Viezzi really pull one out of the hat is if it's super muddy. He's more of a mud rider, and then we haven't seen the under-23s race in those conditions all year. Things could be totally different. Those are for me the three favorites, the podium finishers of Hogerheide. Normally I would have also added a number of Belgians, but due to the illness outbreak in the Belgian team, I'm a bit wary. What can Kai de Bruyker do? He was good at the championships this year. He was silver medalist last year. He wasn't able to repeat those performances this year, but can he live up and seize the day? What can Jordi Corses do? Does his calf stay okay? Does it cramp up from the injury? How does he recover from the illness? Did it get more serious? Was it just a cold? Does he get away? Time will need to tell that. Victor van den Bergen, he's been okay, but I'm more looking towards Mats van den Einde, championship rider as well. Pieker was good last year in the juniors race, was good at the Belgian championships, has some potential. Finally then, for me, a podium contender in Guus van den Einde, the Dutch rider. Those are mostly the riders I'm looking at, and then if you want, Leo Bisio, but I don't think he can chain together a technically flawless ride on the course in Hulst.
You will be tested technically in a sense, and if you are not up for that task, even if you have good legs, you will not be able to get around the course as fast as the ones that are actually able to do that. And I think that you summed it up right. I think with Haverdings, you have someone that has shown this season that he has, when he gets himself in that position, he has the tools that he needs in a sense to win a race. But will he be allowed to race that way again? And will he race that way? I mean, we had that discussion in a sense where we were saying, and you were saying that this is maybe his style of racing, and it is almost something that is forced upon himself because of the way he races. But what if he's able to turn that around, and he's able to just from the start of the race be in a very good position, maybe even follow Sparvel, because Sparvel will always be riding, that's that's a given. But it is hard to race against your nature, and I totally understand that. But it is it is a championship. The racing might be a bit different. There is a lot at stake. I definitely feel that we are, the Belgian riders are huge question marks in a sense, because you just don't know. These are factors that are outside of, anything that you kind of really can control in a sense, and it's just very unfortunate. And could be very painful for Belgium overall in terms of, how many medals they will be able to get out of this World Championship. This was really a category where if everything went their way, they potentially could have been able to maybe snatch a medal or two if everything really went their way. And that, obviously it's not even going their way in the period just before we are going to this World Championship. So it's hard to think that they will actually go their way as well in the race. But you don't know. You don't know how they will recover. You don't know how bad it was. And it will obviously influence the race one way or the other and influence your preparation. And hopefully they will all get over it in a sense and will be healthy when they have to be there cold for the start of the race. And I think that indeed with a Fietzi, for example, he's maybe of the three that we mentioned the outsider in a sense. He needs a scenario in which he probably, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he needs a scenario similar to Sparvel, but arguably he needs to be given that room in a sense. Well, maybe Sparvel can force it a little bit more than Vietzi can, but if I'm wrong in any way with that analysis, you can definitely challenge me.
I think for Vietzi, the most important thing is the start. Yes, in Hogerheide he was overactive when he was at the front because he had a good start, or there was a big group at the start and he got some time to move up on the road and kind of settle in at the front. But in Hulst, it's hard to see the same scenario unfold because that first part is technical, quite the bottleneck in the first lap. So your start is just immediately more important and it becomes kind of critical to have everything functioning. So I see that as a major vulnerability for him at the World Championship. So as much as I would like to see him succeed, I struggle to really see him nail that start. I mean, his starting position won't be bad, but he's just not good in the getaway. And then he gets in the mix for the positions and he chickens out a little bit easily compared to the other big guys. So for him, it's on the back foot. And if he's not on the back foot, then it's a question, does he stay calm? For Sparvel, you can know that he will probably have a fine start. He's rarely ever missed his start here. And then from there on, he'll take the race. He might stay calm in the first lap, but then it's a matter of time until when his first big attack comes. If he races like in Hogerheide and tries one big attack and then a second attack from the leading group, then sits in and then waits until going into the final lap, then he does have potential. Sure, I would like to see Oban Sparvel one-time race and actually leave it to the last lap. He's unproven. In last lap's battle this year, he's not been good, but that's because he's been off the front all the time. In Hogerheide, he left it to the penultimate lap. Yeah, it was good in the end. It paid off, but there was also the risk that Haverdings, through sitting in the draft of VHC, came back, and that gap was quite small. So the tactical dynamic here will be interesting, and the mental factors at play will really determine how this race unfolds. Can Sparvel nail together a tactically perfect race? Then he's maybe a little bit stronger physically, but he's inferior technically than Haverdings. Vietzi, can he nail his start? Then he has the potential to be in the mix. Is he not nailing his start? Then we have a whole wide group of riders that could finish on the podium. I just mentioned a bunch of them, a couple of Belgians. I think Guus van den Einde is another strong rider, a little bit under the radar season. Maybe we should consider Aaron Dox if the course is fast, but I think he's become too much of a road rider. He was good in Benidorm, but it's hard for me to see him really nail it. Same for Bisio, too much of a road rider, and on a course like Hulst, the new course, yes, you will have some benefits from that, but the conditions will really determine how vital that is. I hope to get a better idea of that when I am there on Thursday. And for now, Issam, I will leave you to take it away with some predictions here.
I think I will go with Haverdings winning the title, Sparvel in second, and third, I'll go with Guus van den Einde.
After my preseason belief, I will have to go with Haverdings for the title ahead of Sparvel. And I'm glad to see that you take over my belief in Guus van den Einde, but I will go with Mats van den Einde then for third place. I think this Belgian rider has been quite strong, and he looked to be one of the healthy ones in this weekend in Hogerheide, so let's see if he is able to put it together.
Yeah.
Then the men's junior race, there also a interesting section of favorites, like the top of our pyramid. It's quite tricky. We have 3 riders that are guarantees. Patrick Pezzo-Rosola, Filippo Grigolini looking to make it 3 Italian junior men world titles in a row. Søren Bruyère-Jumar looking to reclaim the title in the Italy-France battle. Leo Bisio, then we had 2 times the Italians. Who will come out on top this year? Or will it be Gilles Lejeune, the Belgian? He won in Koksijde. He's had a lot of mistakes at critical moments. He won the World Cup here last year as a first year, but like most of the Belgian team, he got sick in the Spanish training camp. He didn't start last weekend, so that is a problem. Can he nail it together? Is he fit? How healthy is he? What has it done to his form? Has he had fever? Did he need to take antibiotics? A lot of questions to be asked. And then, one real dark horse here that hasn't necessarily been up there throughout the season, Benjamin Noel Suarez, already signed a long-term deal on the road. Powerful rider, not necessarily the technically most skilled, but one that last weekend did perform quite well. His performances were good, considering most of the time he needed to come from the back. Could he potentially pull an offset against the riders that have been up there all season? Who knows? Could very much be his final cyclocross race as he's joining Ineos. He could leave the sport with a bang. Those are kind of the favorites here that we're looking at.
Spot on. I think that is going to be interesting to see if the Italians can bring a challenge to Bruyere, who, with last weekend, you look at Bruyere for sure as a rider as well capable of winning it. But I think that the Italians also are definitely candidates for that rainbow jersey as well. And I have the feeling that maybe with a rider like a Jari van Ley, how he was racing as well in Bering at the national championship, and I think that he is also a rider with, if he's able to get himself in a position that comes to a sprint, we have seen it. He is a fast rider in a sense when it comes to that last punch. So I can see him also, get up there in maybe a potential top 5 if Lejeune is not able to deliver for Belgium. So that's also a rider that I look at and be like, okay, something can come out of that as well. So yeah, with Lejeune, it's a bit of a shame if he's not going to be able to be 100% come race day, because he's a rider that arguably put himself a lot of pressure in for the season overall. He really wanted to perform. It has been at times underwhelming due to his own faults, and at times he has really shown that he is a rider with talent, and there is no doubt in that in a sense. But these are now circumstances and things that are kind of out of his hand. If he's going to recover from his illness, if that is going to be enough recovery, and will that recovery translate into the form that he needs to be up there with the very best. And he has, it's weird, but he has that, like, he technically he's not that bad, but he's definitely someone that's prone to mistakes and that makes mistakes left and right. And Hulst is definitely a course that invites you to make that mistake. So there's definitely an invitation that he should try and avoid at all costs, and hopefully he will. But that is overall, I think, for this category as well. And overall, when the junior categories, it's tricky, where riders to be able to really consistently get through all those laps and not make the mistakes and not make have a crash left or right, and how you are going to deal with a crash. Are you going to change your bike? Do you have that? Has it been briefed? Are you like mentally in the race to think about it and be like, okay, I have to change my bike now because of the crash, and are you really that bright at that moment? And I think that those are definitely things that could very well influence a race, and for a rider that potentially was able to get on the podium, and then there they are with nothing really.
Yeah, I think to kind of start at your ending, yes, it's a very easy course to make mistakes, especially in the junior category. If it's rainy and a bit slippery, it could very much be like that. Even if there's a few below zero temperatures on the ground and it starts thawing a little bit when they race at 11, that could be very tricky. That's the conditions we had last year in Louvain for the World Championships, and there were so many crashes and wipeouts. So I think what we will see, there's a few guarantees. One, nobody will have more fans alongside the course than Gilles Lejeune, and they will be easily recognizable for people as they are wearing a supporter of Gilles Lejeune jacket. They're everywhere, and they will be loud. Secondly, the Italians will be going crazy cheering. Pontoni will be either riding around his modern Pinarello, which is cursed. He does not belong on modern bikes. Like, it just doesn't add up seeing the archive footage of him, but he'll be either running or sprinting on his bike to cheer for his riders. He is very engaged as a coach. Let's put it that way. I still always need to remember to the European Championships last year when one of the Italian coaches just was up in the tree in this spectatorless first loop and just overseeing everything on the radio to the rest of the team. So that will be a guarantee as well. That much for the shenanigans off course. On course, I think what you can expect is that the Italians will take turns setting the pace. That's kind of how they've done it this season. Grigolini will hope it's dry. Pezzorosola will hope it's dry and Grigolini will hope it's wet. They kind of supplement each other in a similar way like Viezzi and Agostinacchio do that in the men's under 23 category. They are both strong. Grigolini can also do it on the flat courses and Pezzorosola to an extent as well on the muddy courses. They will be the ones dictating the race. Brière-Joumard will try and sit in second wheel as much as he can. I liked what I saw from him. His skill in Hoogheide was his bunny hopping speed. He and Sparfel both jumped so fast. Physically, I think that maybe the Italians are a little bit stronger. Noval, his main thing will be the start. Can he get into that lead group right away and then not make any technical mistakes? Then he could be very dangerous. Lejeune, the fitness is a question, and he'll for sure be in the lead group if he's fit. But then does he have the finesse and the smoothness to avoid making those costly mistakes that he's made this season? How will he be able to deal with the pressure? The pressure will definitely be on, especially if the Saturday, and that could very well happen, will be 0 Belgian medals. Then there will be that extra bit of pressure on him. And look, part of it is self-inflicted when you are very active with your own fan club, but part of it is also just the Belgian pressure cooker, and that is something that he at times this season has appeared to struggle with. That's kind of how I'm viewing the racing, Issam. And yeah, you said Van Ley. In that, I would also like to add Delano Heren. He was quite good in Benidorm off the front, then crashed in a puddle of water. But he's had quite a couple of good finishes. Was in the mix in Kokzijde, for instance. Maybe Cas Timmermans, but not really sure where he stands currently physically. The Dutch have a lot of riders that will be contending the top 10. So I think, Heren is maybe a last name I would like to add as a dark horse.
Agree. I was really thinking about him as well, so that I can only agree with that. Predictions?
You can go first.
I can go first. I will go with Grigolini, Joumard, Pezzorosola. That is my top 3.
Alright, I will go with Pezzorosola, Joumard, and Noval Suarez. So, tricky one, but a little bit of an upset in there. Then we come to the final individual race. Junior woman. Until 2 weeks ago, I would have said no problem for Lise Revol. She's been the dominant force all season. Now I kind of still want to tell you that. Stay calm and carry on. You know, the famous slogan the Brits used in the Second World War on the pamphlets that are in probably every classroom of a Dutch English teacher and history teacher and other teachers. Keep calm and do chemics. Keep calm and love geography. I wouldn't go as far as say as it's middle school or high school trauma, but it's definitely a high school canon event, I feel, in the Netherlands. But can we keep calm and carry on with Revol, Issam? Or do we need to draw some conclusions and say, well, Giorgia Pelliciotti, straight off 2 wins, real contender for the win. Barbora Bukowska, yeah, her start is an issue, but last year at the World Championships looks how she did. Can she overcome that? And what about Shana Hubert? Swiss rider, not raced a ton this season, but on the podium in Hoogheide, on the podium in Dendermonde. She was strong at the European Championships. How are you looking at that race?
If Revol is going to be able to be in form for the race that matters the most, I don't think that she will struggle in a sense. I think that then the win should be her for the taking, to be honest. But I agree with you. I think that she brought it to a situation right now that you're like, is it really possible that come race day, Revol is not going to be at a level that we thought she would be at? And is that then going to grant an opportunity to others to even be able to become world champion? That is the doubts that we now kind of have in a sense because of the recent results. And I think that those doubts are fair. But I also think that we should not forget that Revol, if she is, at the level that we kind of know from her in a sense, I think that then it should normally be a race win. But that's going to be, I guess, the big question in a sense for this race. How good is Revol going to be? And I think that will have a huge influence on the race result as well, and could potentially be that Revol is, if she's not at that level that she needs to be, could potentially mean that she will lose out on the world title, and that would be, considering how the season was developing, would be a surprise.
The situation of Revol is somewhat similar to the situation of Brandt. You look at the entire season and you see, oh yeah, it's been great, and then now not as much. I mean, it's the French way. The French are rarely ever good in Hogerheide, and in recent years you also see the fatigue stacking up in Benidorm. So we will see what it brings. I mean, in that way I was surprised that Jumar was that good in Hogerheide. I was also surprised about the form of Sparvel. Like, if they're able to add a few percentage points, yeah, then maybe all of a sudden, instead of a Dutch party, we're talking about a French revolution here. I mean, Revol, Jumar, Géry, Sparvel, maybe the relay, that's 5 titles. 4 titles in the individuals. Like, I don't think that will happen, but it has the potential. Like, we've had the Italian Renaissance, why not the French Revolution here? So, the Revol's form, it will be determining of the race. I mean, you can expect her to set out hard, she does that, but we will quickly know where we're at. Like, how quickly does Bukowska appear in the rearview mirror? How quickly does she distance Pellizotti? Like, if it's like in Benidorm and Hogerheide, that gap is 4 to 10 seconds and it doesn't pull away further, then I can kind of present to you on a silver platter that they will come back. And then we'll have a race. But if she pulls away 15, 20 seconds, then she settles in a zone, and this season she's been unbeatable from that zone. I think Pellizotti is one that will really believe and try. Bukowska, she will be fully dependent on the start. I think it's really between these 3 riders. Hubert, Versluis, those are kind of my other podium contenders. Maybe Elisa Bianchi or Nicola Zetti, Nienke Jochems, but can't really see it for them yet. And for Hubert and Versluis, who've been on the podium this season, same as for Lali Pichon, I just don't see a real podium on the charts unless something happens. And then again, it brings me back to how good is Revol? Does Pellizotti have the legs to stick in there? And does Bukowska have the ability to not have a horrible start, but have a slightly below par start? One where she's like 15th and then quickly moves her way into 5th place, and she can still see the lead of the race,
I totally agree with you on Perizotti's, that belief is definitely going to be there now, and has been. Yeah, you cannot. She has earned that belief. I wanted to say that it was granted by Revol, but that's not really the case. She earned it herself. She got herself in that position, and that must be a boost now coming into this, the World Championship. It's gonna be the question if she's able to maintain that form, or even, was able to add just that little bit. Normally it's not really the case, so she has to do with what she has at the moment, but it is possible, but I don't think that really will be the case. And then it's going to be the question, as we have now asked that question now, I think 6-7 times, maybe even 8. Revol, how good is she going to be? And I think that is, for me, that's going to be the key of the race. And as you said, if she's going to be, do it her way, in a way that fast start, and Hulst gives you that opportunity as well, that you can really make use of a fast start if others didn't have that start, and then you can put them under pressure for the entirety of the race, in a sense, if you have the legs to do so. And that is going to be the question: does he have the legs to do so? And it's not going to be the belief that is going to be lacking for Pellizotti. She will believe in it, she will go for it. And Bukowska is, I mean, she has been in battles that you would think that are, there is no solution for it, and then she finds a way to get back to the front with huge efforts. So Bukowska will always, even if it's going to be a bad start, she will always try and make the best out of that, and she has the power and the form, in a sense, to do that. Question will be, how bad will that start be, and then that will result in what is potentially possible for Bukowska. I think that if the start isn't that bad, I think that she can really, use the form that she has and that power, and if Revol is just not that great, I think that there is a huge opportunity for her as well. So I think that I believe in what you're saying as well. I think those three are for me as well. It's for me hard to imagine that it will be someone outside of those three. Things can happen, but outside of those three, I think that those will be really, fighting for the podium and fighting for the rainbow jersey, and who eventually will take it. I feel that I think that Revol will still have it, but it's going to be a great race, most likely.
My prediction then, I agree, Revol still has it. Title for her. Bukowska second, Pellizotti third.
I had the idea of saying the same thing, but I will then go with Revol still being world champion, and then I would say Pellizotti in second and Bukowska in third.
Then finally, very briefly before we end this long preview, the mixed relay. 13 teams starting this year and also televised, which is good. Also nice to see that there's 13 teams. I mean, let's just go over the countries starting. Great Britain, title defense. Italy, France, United States, Czech Republic, Belgium, Canada, Spain, Japan, Netherlands, Slovakia, Luxembourg, and Denmark. I mean, last year Romania fielded a team. This year you can see Luxembourg fielding a team. Denmark. It's just nice to see these teams take an opportunity here at the event. Favorite-wise, there's only one top favorite. This is the lineup for the Netherlands. Isis Versluis, Leonie Bentveld, Shirin van Anrooy, Delano Heren, Guus van der Einde, Tibor Del Grosso. Phenomenal lineup. Hard to see them be beaten, but it is possible because Italy also fields a quite strong lineup. Giorgia Pellizotti, Elisa Ferri, Sara Casasola, Filippo Grigolini, Stefano Viezzi, and Filippo Fontana. The weak spots there compared to the Netherlands are women under 23 and men elite, but they do have some aces up their hands with Pellizotti, Grigolini, and Viezzi. Then also France, they're not in their strongest lineup, but still a dangerous contender. Lali Pichon, Celia Giry, Hélène Clausel, Sunbrier Jumar, Roman de Boer, and Martin Gros-Lambert. Those for me are the three favorites. Outsiders for podium, you come to Belgium. Strong on the men's side, Jari van Lee, Kai de Bruyker, and Niels van de Putte. Women's side, Zita Peters, Fleur Moore, Julie Brouwers. Not horrible, but also not amazing. United States, they have Ada Linton, Lydia Cusack, Vida Lopez de San Roman, Ethan Brown, Henry Coote, and Andrew Strohmeyer. And yeah, the title defendant, Great Britain, it's a bit hard to see. They have Milo Wilsman Jr. He's very talented, but he's had a bad illness and an injury at the start of the season, which meant he's not at his best level. Then Oscar Amy, good rider, top 10 contender. Cameron Mason, Zoe Backstead, two junior women, Peggy Knox and Zoe Roach. They pulled one from the hat last year when they were also criticized for not selecting any women elites, and they won the mixed relay. But can't really see it happening that much this year. For me, it's kind of those countries in the mix for the podium, Issam. And here in Hulst, we could have a different dynamic than in previous years, where it's easy to crash, it's easy to make a mistake. So, yeah, that's I think how we should look at this event.
It's great that it's going to be broadcasted, I think, because it's a nice event. It's good that we see commitment from certain countries. Nice to see the Netherlands fielding a team. I think they have the strongest team and should normally win it, in my opinion. I think that Italy is together with France, maybe. I think Italy is just that tiny bit better, but they both are contenders, and strategy could play a role. So Great Britain is definitely also, we have seen it in the past that they have this thing with Backstead starting, and it works in a sense. And I don't know if Hulst is gonna be the course where that will also work, but you don't know. It could very well be again, and I don't think that will be enough to defend the title and win it again. I don't think that is gonna be possible, but they could very well just maybe think of a podium by strategy calls and the way they are racing and all that. I think that I don't see it happening, but it wouldn't surprise me massively if they would be able to just get themselves on a third spot, due to strategy and the way they've been racing. And I think that Belgium as well, arguably maybe their strongest team, if you look at their general kind of fielding, I think that that is definitely also a team that you have to look at, and they are outsiders for a podium spot. So I think overall, good to see, the nations, some of the nations, I guess, taking it seriously, and others, basically just they don't really have the luxury to select, an athlete for the category and that is competitive enough to fight for a top 5 or top 10 or top 5 or podium. So yeah, that is kind of where we are at, and I think that will be a great show, and hopefully will be a great race and a battle till the end.
It will be, I think, a nice one. I do think the Netherlands will win in the end, with Italy in second and France in third. I agree with you that Belgium could finish on the podium. They are, for me, really clearly the fourth team. But yeah, I just think for Belgium the problem is always in the Women A-League they will lose quite some time, and in the Women Junior they will also lose quite some time. So it's a strong team, don't get me wrong, but just compare that, like the lineup of the Netherlands and Italy is peak. Like those are the two favorites for me, and then I'm taking France over Belgium and the UK, although I do agree with your strategy point. The USA also, I mean, it's not a bad team, and I also think in that sense that Spain is a team that we will see in some regard, because they have Orts, Noval, and then Raul Mira Bonastre has been very good in the first lap of the races, and Hogerheide as well. So he can do it for one lap. Their women's side is a bit of an issue, but I don't see them make a play for a podium, but they could get a nice placing, like better than what we've seen from them in recent years.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think this will be a great watch as well. So yeah, you predicted already. I think I can predict as well. I guess I cannot see it any other way than the Netherlands winning it, to be honest. And then I would say Italy second, then let's go for Belgium third. Then I guess I say Belgium then in third.
Well then, I think that's it. All 7 races. Thank you so much, Issam.
We're done. No, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to talk about the most important event of this cyclocross season, the World Championships, and previewing it. And I hope the listeners were able to get through this whole and benefited from the knowledge that we try to share in a sense. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the World Championship. It's gonna be a good one, I hope, and hopefully the weather will not be terrible in terms of rain during the event.
Oh, Issam, come on. Come on.
It can rain during the night. I don't need it, on the day itself when I'm on site. I want to enjoy the race.
Watch on the TV.
No, but
okay.
But I think that it will be a great event, and I will enjoy it, and I think everyone will enjoy it in a sense, and it's always the biggest thing of this season, so it's great to cover it in a sense.
Then I think that's it for this episode. We will be back with more coverage from the World Championships fairly soon. A YouTube-only stand-up on Thursday, and then a Friday, another stand-up after the relay. We're still figuring out the plans for Saturday and Sunday, but what's certain is that Issam and I will be there to discuss those, and Thursday and Friday you will for sure hear from me, and to be determined what the rest is. But on Friday, Spotify episode about the mixed relay, and added to that the stand-up about the course. So that's what we're looking at right now. Thanks everyone for listening. Catch you guys soon. Goodbye.
Bye.